Welcome to the Polyglass special product section. A complete range of products and accessories for waterproofing and the finishing of structures in general. This carefully selected and original range of products lets you glue, paint, protect and modify all the waterproofing solutions made with bituminous polymer membranes. The completeness of the range is also the fruit of effective synergy between the MAPE Research and Development Department, which provides us with detailed access to every real technical need at the worksite. Let's talk about bituminous primers. What are bituminous primers? A preliminary treatment that must always be performed before the application of a bituminous waterproofing membrane. A bituminous primer can be composed of solvent or water and is applied over the surface to eliminate porosity and even cover the tiny cracks usually present in concrete. Primers can be divided into three groups of products offered by Polyglass. The first is normal polyprimer, which is usually used in 200 to 400 grams per square meter. The second is Polyprimer HP45, which differs from the former by its higher quantity of dry solid content and therefore a higher quantity of active ingredient. Last but not least is Hydroprimer, a water-based primer that can also be used in areas with less than optimum ventilation. We strongly recommend the use of primer because it's fundamental in guaranteeing the maximum adhesion of the waterproofing layer to the surface. The combination of respect for the times required for the evaporation of solvent or water and the use of primer is the basis for every long-lasting and efficient waterproofing treatment. Here we see our tester mixing the primer. In this case, Hydroprimer, a water-based bituminous primer. Mixing prior to application is very important because it brings all the bituminous to emerge and come to the surface and create a homogeneous paste. We see the tester using a roller, but the product could be equally applied using low-pressure systems such as airless spray guns. The quantity of primer recommended runs from 200 to 400 grams per square meter, depending on the porosity and conditions of the underlayer. It's very important to respect the drying times, because the water in the primer must be completely evaporated before the subsequent application of the following product. Now we'll watch the application of Elastopaint Plus, a thixotropic bituminous waterproofing pasta applied by spatula and particularly recommended for the waterproofing of garages, basements and embankment walls. Application is very easy. A coat of water-based bituminous primer is given first and allowed to dry, and then Elastopaint Plus, the real waterproofing layer, is applied. Elastopaint Plus is an ecological thixotropic paste that contains no solvent and applied by spatula directly to the surfaces to be treated. The product has been enriched with additives of polystyrene spheres of around 2 mm diameter that ensure the desired thickness will be maintained constant throughout the surface during application. Elastopaint Plus is highly resistant to aging and is particularly suited to the outdoor waterproofing of foundations, basements, garages and embankment walls. Now we're going to see two liquid membranes, two products that are particularly suited to the waterproofing of smaller areas: window wells, gutters, concrete flower boxes and other areas that are hard to reach. The first is a solvent-based product known as Acriplast. The second is a water-based product known as Hydroplast. We're watching the application of Acriplast, the solvent-based liquid bituminous elastomeric membrane, a very high-performance product. The ideal solution for the waterproofing of geometrically complex structures and surfaces that would be much more difficult to treat using other systems. Both the solvent-based and water-based Acriplast and Hydroplast systems can be reinforced between one layer and the next, or one coat and the next, with polyester fabric with longitudinal glass fibers of adequate weight. This protection is required to protect the system from the effects of ultraviolet radiation after the underlying layer has been allowed to dry correctly. Now we see the application of Hydroplast, a water-based liquid membrane that's very easy to apply. Hydroplast is a pasty product and creates a certain thickness, and is the ideal solution for roofing of complex forms where it would be hard to apply bituminous polymer membranes that require torching. Hydroplast is equally suited to the restoration of old and deteriorated membranes. The product must always be protected by adequate protective paints. Water-based liquid membranes are always recommended wherever ventilation is scarce, such as for indoor applications, because they contain absolutely no solvent. All bituminous polymer membranes, whether they are prefabricated or liquid, must be provided with adequate protection against sunlight. Ultraviolet radiation, in fact, causes rapid deterioration of the characteristics of the bituminous compound, and so these membranes must be regularly repainted in order to maintain their continuing performance. The Polyglass special products range now offers two specific products: an aluminium solvent-based paint called Polyver Alu and the water-based Polyver Acryl. The water-based product is obviously available in different colours: red, green, white and grey. It's very important to mix the product before use in order to bring all the pigments from the bottom of the tin to the top and create a homogeneous mixture with an even colour. The quantity of product to apply, in this case Polyver Acryl Red, ranges from 200 to 400 grams per square metre. The product can be applied by roller, brush and spraying. The surface must be adequately clean, of course. The product can be walked on only for repair or restoration work. Polyver Alu, a protective bituminous solvent-based paint with aluminium metal pigments, guarantees bituminous polymer membranes the maximum protection. The aluminium pigments reflect the sunlight and ensure a reflecting solar index of 61%, as certified by the EEL Institute. In this case as well, the product must be mixed very well in order to bring all the aluminium pigments from the bottom of the tin to the top. During this mechanical stirring phase, the entire quantity of the product's silver colorant will not be visible because at this point a certain quantity of bitumen still remains on the bottom. Once the product has been applied to the bituminous polymer membrane, the bituminous part will precipitate when it comes into contact with the existing bituminous polymer membrane, while the aluminium part floats to the surface to provide the membrane with its characteristic silver color. The quantity of product to apply ranges from 200 to 400 grams per square meter. We recommend waiting at least 60 to 90 days after the drying of the bituminous polymer membrane in order to ensure an initial oxidization effect of the surface of the membrane that will guarantee longer-lasting on-site performance. We discourage the application of this product in the hottest hours of summer days when temperatures may exceed 35 degrees Celsius. The treatment must be repeated after a few years, depending on the building's exposure to sunlight, because the natural effect of ultraviolet radiation tends to diminish the product's reflection capacity. Polysint. Here we're talking about a non-bituminous based membrane, an acrylic protective membrane that's particularly indicated for the restoration of old concrete or deteriorated bituminous polymer membrane that we want to ensure longer life. The big advantage of Polysint, in addition to coming in a range of colours and being easy to apply, is that it requires no additional protective treatment against ultraviolet radiation or weathering. Polyfix, Polysem are very pasty products that can be used with a spatula to reconstruct the details, such as inside corners or for the fastening of air vents or drainage columns. Whereas Polycol is a more fluid glue formulated for the application of the bitumen polymer membrane without the use of flame. Polycol is basically a glue for the fastening of bituminous polymer membranes. Now our expert is demonstrating the correct use and application of Polyfix with an American-style toothed spatula. The spatula teeth are 4 mm, so that once the panel is applied, it will guarantee a constant thickness of 2 mm, and the drying of the product will also be constant as a result. The product is not provided over the entire surface, but in parallel strips, 20 to 25 centimeters apart. We discourage applying the glue in spots because this makes it hard to dose the quantity and the necessary amount of surface area that must be covered. Even if the product has a solvent base, it's absolutely not corrosive for the polystyrene foam we are using as a support surface for the purpose of example. The average use of this product runs from 700 to 1000 grams per square meters. The panel is now ready to be laid. The glued surface amounts to around 50% of the total area, and therefore sufficient to guarantee that it will never be raised up by the effect of the wind. Under normal conditions, Polyfix takes 24 hours to dry. This time obviously increases in the presence of high humidity or low temperature. Now we are watching the application of Polysem, a bituminous paste enriched with special sand and solvent, and is the ideal solution for finishing works and the positioning of vent pipes and drains on the roof. The product is extremely workable and thixotropic. Here we are simulating the positioning of an air vent over an insulation panel. After the air vent has been laid, we'll lay a self-adhesive waterproofing membrane without the use of torching. We would never perform torching over a polystyrene foam insulation panel, of course, because an open flame would cause irreparable damage. Now our tester is stripping away the layer of monosiliconated release film from the intradose of the waterproofing membrane, which was previously cut to allow for the passage of the air vent. One of the special features of the Adheso line self-adhesive products is their amazing adhesion, while also permitting the subsequent correction of errors in positioning at the moment of application. The maximum adhesion of the self-adhesive compound is only reached several hours later through exposure to sunlight and with the increase of the membrane's surface temperature. And now we see the sealing of the point where the vent pipe passes through. The product is very thixotropic and easy to work even in less than optimum ambient temperatures. Polysem can also be used for emergency repairs for breakages in the roof because it is a sealant that works well even in the presence of humidity.